Good evening. All right, well, my name is Brian Kaur. I work for the City of Cambridge as Director of the Peace Commission, the Cambridge Commission on Nuclear Disarmament and Peace Education, and I'm very honored to welcome you to the 35th anniversary celebration of CISCA, the Cambridge-Yerevan Sister City Association, and the connection between the city of Cambridge and Yerevan in Armenia. So I'm really here to MC. We have an amazing program for you tonight. I'm so gratified to see each of you here, and I promised I wouldn't go on and on, but I do just want to say a couple of things about how we came to be here, and you'll hear much more about that as we go on. But in 1985, Yerevan was chosen to be the sister city for Cambridge, and it was part of a broad initiative to create peace. It was at the height of the Cold War. Tensions were great, as we might be able to imagine. And there was this desire that human beings, people to people, could connect. And so Cambridge did a lot of great work, reached out to people in Armenia, knowing the connections in the broader community, and created this partnership. And it's just so amazing to see some of the people who were there at the very beginning and people who are brand new to this here tonight. So on behalf of the City of Cambridge, on behalf of CISCA, and of course on behalf of the Cambridge Peace Commission, I just want to thank you for being here and welcome you and say that we will start our program not with lots of words, but with music. So first, I would like to bring up Stephen Dolgarian to sing the national anthem. Sevan, thank you. Sevan, excuse me. And if people are able to rise, as we'll ask you to do again for the Armenian national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Sevan. And Sevan comes to us from UMass Amherst Commonwealth Honors College, and she is working on a degree in public health and theater. So please, one more round of applause for Sevan. All right, next, I'd like to ask Ala Petrosyan to come forward and sing Mer Hayrenik. Thank you, Ala. And Ala is a student at St. Joseph Prep Boston and attends New England Conservatory, as you could probably tell, at their prep school. And she's also a member of Boston Children's Chorus. So thank you, and another round of applause for Ala, please. So next, I want to introduce someone who I would say probably needs no introduction in this city, but not only the first Muslim mayor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but also someone who has been an incredible leader in our city through some of the most difficult times that we have lived through, our mayor, Sumbul Siddiqui.
Good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be here with you tonight. I'm also joined by Councillor Nolan, who you'll hear from shortly, as well, my colleague on the City Council. So welcome to Cambridge City Hall. It's such an honor to celebrate the historic partnership between Cambridge and Yerevan. As we've heard, Yerevan was one of our first sister cities and was established towards the end of the Soviet Union in 1987. The goal of this relationship was to promote peace as part of a broader effort for citizen diplomacy, as Brian alluded to. It was to talk about how to reduce the risk of nuclear war by building direct people-to-people relationships. The connection between these two cities has flourished in the years since, and for that, we have CISCA to thank. CISCA has grown and sustained this partnership between two cities, both known for their diversity, intellectualism, and resolve. Over the last 35 years, CISCA has shown the immense benefits of a sister city relationship. In 1994, Eva Medzorian, a CISCA board member, helped set up the Armenia School Aid Project, which has raised $275,000 for around 100 schools across Armenia. CISCA has also been, yeah, let's clap for that. CISCA has also been an active participant in our very own Cambridge Science Festival for the last 6-7 years, bringing thought-provoking ideas from education to climate change to clean energy production. There's so much for us to learn across cultures, and partnerships like this also allow us to better understand the world through firsthand experiences and cross-culture communication. By continuing the great work that CISCA has done for the last 35 years, we can continue to grow our understanding and build connections across borders. I want to quickly recognize two individuals who could not be here this evening, but sent their best wishes to all of you. The first is Middlesex Sheriff Peter Contusion, who is a member of the Armenian American community and was sad to miss this event. He sent us a proclamation from his office to give to CISCA and wanted me to pass on his regrets for not being able to join today. The second person is the mayor of Yerevan. And thank you, Roxanne, for coaching me through this. I don't want to get it wrong, but I'll try to say it correctly, but it's Horatia Sargsyan. Almost there. So he wanted to be here today, but was not able to make the trip. He sent a really nice letter for us for this event, and I will quote from it briefly. We appreciate the friendly relationship and cooperation between our cities, and I hope in the near future we will have an opportunity to discuss future projects. So I look forward to hopefully meeting him, doing a Zoom with him one day. So in closing, thank you to everyone who has supported CISCA and has worked to build this amazing partnership since 1987. And thank you so much for giving me the chance to welcome you here today. Thank you so much.
Well, as you may have heard, our next speaker also probably needs no introduction, but City Councilor, longtime school committee member, and community activist, Patty Nolan.
So I did pull this out from my closet. I believe it's from Armenia, from my aunt-in-law, which I love wearing. And it turns out it was cold enough today that I could put on a wool vest, which was handy. So my affiliation with Armenia, I date back to when I met my mother-in-law. whose parents came from Harput, her family is both her parents left Armenia before 1915, and for all of you who know, much of her family did not get out because they did not leave before that time. I really didn't know much about Armenia. I ended up marrying the person who had introduced me to this woman who turned out to be my mother-in-law. And in second grade, my kids chose Armenia as their country of heritage to study for the project that our schools were asking them to do. And it's really then that I was pretty stunned to learn what I didn't know about Armenia. And in particular, while this is a joyous occasion, anyone who's from Armenia understands that you cannot talk about the country without understanding the events that transpired in the genocide in the 1915, which I had not really been as aware of until my kids were presenting this and talking about the joyous things about Armenia, like the fact that its alphabet is one of the oldest in the world, and it's a unique alphabet, and its writing was known through the ancient world as something very important. And yet there was this other side of it that to look at photographs of my mother-in-law's relatives who only, I think, 2 of the 15 siblings had made it to this country before 1915. So it was this sobering celebration of that heritage that my children, who are Kurd Armenian, have, recognizing that side of it, and also recognizing the tremendous contribution that Armenia has made to the world. And my affiliation with CISCA drew out of that. I was on school committee, and I asked to serve as one of the board members of CISCA because of this affiliation for my family history and my own children and my husband's direct affiliation with Armenia. And through that, we hosted several Armenians during the various projects. I know Ava and others here understand. And it was a joy for us to be able to host for, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks at a time, to meet people who were over here on the, and now I see many of the people involved in those projects over the years. And so it really was something that was important to our family to get to meet some people who had come over here on the projects hosted by CISCA that would not have happened without CISCA. And I really feel lucky for us to have been able to participate in that and to get to know those people. So I just want to also note that why CISCA? Why is it still relevant today? Well, as the mayor said, and as all of you know, it's even more important in these days and in this world to make connections, to celebrate community, and to bring together all of us to be have this connection between Yerevan and Cambridge, one of the oldest sister city relationships. And I want to also focus on and acknowledge, and that's what CISCA helps us do, the strength, the persistence, and the beauty of both Armenia and its people throughout the diaspora around the world. And we're really very lucky here in Cambridge to have some of it right here and to be able to celebrate 35 years of this relationship. And someday I hope I will make it over to Yerevan. I have not yet, but I hope to someday. I know most people here have already made that journey. And I am grateful to all of you for keeping this sister city relationship alive, including Brian Corr, whose relationship with the city and work on the Peace Commission has also helped celebrate the sister cities across our community. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Councilor Nolan, and thank you for the kind words as well. I want to take just a moment before our next speaker to acknowledge that former Mayor, State Representative Alice Wolf had intended to be part of this and was unable to at the last moment. So she was also instrumental, as you may hear later, in the creation of this relationship. And so she wanted to send her regards and let you know how excited she is that CISCA is celebrating its 35th anniversary. And I also just will take a moment to, since I'm talking about former elected officials, to thank former Representative John Hecht, who serves on the CISCA board, and not to embarrass him, but just to say that he has done a lot of great service for the Armenian community, for the broader community, and very glad to have him as part of this effort as well. So next, I would like to bring up someone who is a former chair of the Cambridge Peace Commission and was also involved in the founding of CISCA, one of the founders, Ellen Mast, who today is often known as an environmentalist, but has deep roots in the peace and justice community. And I know, there she is.
Greetings. I can certainly understand the the early hour by which Roxanne got here, because I was in that role constantly with the Siska, coming early and setting up and hours before anyone was to arrive. So it's very strange to be here this evening in such a different era, with all the changes in Armenia since '87, and even here in our city. We twinned at the ending of the Cold War. Maybe we were helpful in this regard before Glasnost Perestroika, and during the municipal reign of Lenny Russell, Walter Sullivan, and Francis Duhay. This was during the Yerevan mayorship of Mayor Edward Avakian and Vice Mayor, I believe, Robert Nazarian. It wasn't so easy to twin without common language and culture, and many of we Cambridge residents were completely uninformed. But our task at the Peace Commission and Sister City Committee was to find a city in the USSR that would synchronize with the attributes of our city, and one we could make peace bridges with. Councillor Wiley, with early assistance of Ivan Bath, provided the diplomacy with difficult Cold War trust issues. Our research at the Cambridge Peace Commission on various cities brought our first delegation together, consisting of the mayor, city councilor, a minister, peace commissioner, professor, school teacher. And we ended up going to Baku in Azerbaijan and Yerevan in Armenia, and others were suggested as well. Of course, with a large Armenian community right here, we chose Yerevan, especially after our cities were comparable with the arts, intellectual training, history, architecture. We knew we were a highly desirable city with such advanced institutions and liberal mainstream. And Yerevan was sparkling with good offerings. As a prelude to our trip, we invited the Caucasus Georgian dancers who graced the Harrington School under the auspices of Mayor Leonard Russell, who gave the diplomatic keys to the city to the delight of the school and residents. This was our Cambridge introduction to the Caucasus peoples and jump-started our planning. Mayor Duhay carried excellent PR under his auspices for the trip. So the city well supported our Caucasus adventure, despite dubious feelings about Russia and the USSR. But with the Peace Commission and city lead, trust between the two countries came, knowing that it is better to make peace than war. And in the end, we succeeded, however temporarily. We convinced the Moscow cultural authorities that we were sincere and had no ulterior motive but to create cultural exchanges and goodwill. Our visit, staying at the Armenia Hotel, was very, very rich with banquets, fabulous tours, the historical veneration of antiquity, and great civilization contributions of Armenia, as we had not witnessed elsewhere. And with the Victory Museum, it showed how Yerevan was spared in 1945 because of the sacrifices of nearly 500,000 Armenian participants that kept the German armies at bay. We established a very good relationship with the mayor, artists, poets, writers. We were able to get their commitment to return. They even spoke of contributing to Cambridge a fountain they would donate, but instead the mayor brought a pure silver peace bird, handcrafted for the city when he did return for the celebration and signing with Mayor Sullivan. A Paul Revere bowl was given by Mayor Sullivan. Over 2 years of high grassroots activism, cultural exchanges took place. One I remember especially with Margaret Capelian School, with many pen pal letters exchanged, and the Children's Museum, which still today hangs exhibits from 130 countries in the theme, Through the Eyes of Children. You can see tonight the bright light Armenian children in the painting on the bulletin board, on the show display, and with the earthquake poster signed by Mayor Wolf and Mayor Flynn of Boston. We met Enrique Gideon, founder of the museum, with a number of branches now. Subsequently, we had several special exhibitions from that museum here in Cambridge, and I think in Watertown. Cambridge children sent their paintings as well. I see you plan to have many, many more people exchanges and hope that you will. The people to people is the only way to go. I applaud your continued efforts to share your interesting lives and aspirations with sister and fellow Yerevan residents and colleagues. But especially thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing this deeply impacting Siska period in my own life to be shared with your people and cultural roots to enhance my own world. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, Ellen. Thank you for your words and for your work then and today. Next, I want to introduce another person who was one of the founders. So my notes tell me that Ellen was the first vice president, and our next speaker was the second vice president, which sounds overly bureaucratic, but it's really a testament to how organized these people were when they came together to do this. So please welcome Ivan Bath, another founder of Siska, and again, a Cambridge resident to this day. Ivan?
Hello. Sorry, do I need to start again? Yes. So thank you, current members of the board, for inviting me to speak tonight. As is the case with many people who started in this effort, we didn't necessarily know a lot about Armenia, at the time Soviet Armenia, and didn't know very much about the culture, but the whole experience of setting up Siska and going to visit was very eye-opening and was a great learning experience for all of us, me in particular as well. It is with great pride, therefore, that we are gathered here to look back on the many achievements of the Cambridge-Yerevan Sister City Association over these past 35 years, and you've already heard of a number of those. My own particular involvement with Siska was a continuation of my long-standing commitment to anti-nuclear war and disarmament work, and I served 2 years as a conscientious objector during the Vietnam War. I grew up during the height of the Cold War, at a time when nuclear standoff between the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, seemed imminent. We weren't sure what would bring the next morning. An organization called Sister Cities International was created by President Dwight Eisenhower in 1956 at a White House conference on citizen diplomacy. The idea was to create a network that would advance peace by fostering bonds between people at the local level around the world. Such bonds, it was reasoned, would lessen the chance of nuclear conflicts and regional wars. In 1986, I joined a committee of the Cambridge Peace Commission, tasked with forming a sister city with a city in the Soviet Union. It was an exciting period. The Soviet Union at that time was encouraging and opening up and broadening of relations with the United States. There would be expanded efforts to engage in people-to-people exchanges, and that appealed to me. In the Peace Commission, we envisioned finding a Soviet city that would be a good fit for Cambridge and one that would generate interest in Cambridge and the surrounding communities. After much research and many meetings, Ellen will remember many of those, we explored the possibility of forming a long-term sister city relationship with the city of Yerevan in Soviet Republic of Armenia. The first official delegation to Armenia in May of 1986 was led by our former mayor, Frank Duhay. The purpose was to initiate discussions that might lead to establishing the sister city ties. Mayor Duhay reported back to the city that the officials in Yerevan were well impressed with the breadth and depth of Cambridge's interest in Yerevan, and that the 11-member delegation was very warmly received. 1 year later, in May of 1987, the city of Yerevan sent an official delegation to Cambridge, led by then Mayor Edward Arvekian. The delegation included musicians and ordinary citizens. They were able to spend an entire day visiting the Cambridge schools, and that school connection has been continuing, as I understand it, and has always been very important. The Cambridge school students performed for the guests, and many questions and answers from students, teachers, and our visitors were openly exchanged. In July of 1988, my wife Valley and I organized and were part of an official delegation to Yerevan, led by then Vice Mayor Alice Wolfe. The delegation included the young musicians of the Cambridge Regional Latin High School Jazz Ensemble, along with their teacher, Bob Ponte. The student musicians had the unforgettable opportunity to perform in musical venues in both Moscow and Yerevan. At this time, we signed a series of exchange agreements, formalizing the Cambridge-Yerevan Sister City Association and the relationship. The formal agreement included biannual festivals of Cambridge Days in Yerevan and Yerevan Days in Cambridge, a series of great issues convocations and exchanges in education, science, environment, and climate. An ongoing relationship between Cambridge's Yolngy School of Music and the Komitas Conservatory in Yerevan was something I was particularly involved with and enjoyed. Peace Day celebrations in the Cambridge and Yerevan schools were also a part. In a New Year's greeting from Mayor Avakian, published in the Cambridge Chronicle in 1988, Mayor Avakian writes in part, and I quote, "The year 1987, a landmark year in our life, started sisterly relations between Cambridge and Yerevan. We made a treaty of friendship and cooperation and exchanged delegations and performers. The year was no less spectacular in another respect. A treaty has been made to eliminate intermediate and short-term missiles, and our countries are switching from confrontation to dialogue. Nuclear arsenal reduction provides a firm basis for improving Soviet-US relations. I believe the year to come will see our countries doing more to ease international tensions, and our sister cities at the local level can be prominent in that effort." The end of the quote. So for me, perhaps now more than ever, we need to recommit ourselves to true dialogue between nuclear superpowers and a peace movement which seeks to recommit all nuclear armed nations to full disarmament and a return to international law on both sides. And perhaps a renewed commitment to the sister city associations is a good place to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Wow, it's wilder now. Okay. So next, I would like to bring back Alla Petrosyan to perform Erebuni Yerevan.
Yerevan dartsat inerebuni tu menor David menorani merpokli kovi tu metierazan merdare garot merkare nazan Yerevan dartat imerebuni dare santen vaitmanaten esvatani Thomasis haro karats mara metanastaro Yerevan Sankumamen ser linume darber ismek bolor ser hez novar per ta keseramer shekarerit pes hine seramer tikdarerit pes Yerevan dartat imerebuni darere santen vaitmanaten esvatani komasis haro karats mara metaro Yerevan
What a beautiful voice. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to take a risk, but I believe I saw David Wiley enter the room. Is that David? So I'd like to welcome David Wiley, former city councilor, and been many, many years since I've seen you, so it's good to see you, David. So next, we're going to hear from someone who has been part of CISCA activities and has also served on the board, but actually has interesting experiences as a Peace Corps volunteer, Jennifer Bonislavsky.
I'm short. I have to adjust this. I'm really happy to be here. My name's Jen Bonislavsky, and I want to start off by saying first, thank you. Thank you to Mayor Siddiqui for having us here. It's really nice to be here, and thank you to the CISCA board for inviting me. You know, it's really nice to know your experience means something to people. So I really appreciate that. I was thinking this past few weeks about what I wanted to say tonight, and you know, it occurred to me in the mid-'80s, I was a young person. In 85, I was 11, I think. And I remember the fear around nuclear proliferation. It was real. I actually looked up her name. I remember Samantha Smith, the young lady who wrote to Andropov in Russia, the head of the USSR, saying, what's with all these nuclear weapons? You need to do something about this, and what a big deal that was. Let me back up and say, I did grow up here in Cambridge, born and raised, and grew up in the peace and justice community, for which I'm really grateful. Yeah, there was a lot of fear around nuclear proliferation. It was really scary, and I think it was scary to be little at that time, because you didn't know what was happening, and did the adults have this under control, and what was going on. So I remember hearing about CISCA. My father was on the Peace Commission for a while, and I remember hearing about it in the Chronicle, and hearing about the development of the Sister City program, and and I remember that there was a delegation that went. Fast forward a few years, in the early 90s, I was graduating from UMass Boston, and I looked into the Peace Corps and applied, got accepted, and got my assignment in the mail, and said, Armenia, interesting. I knew, again, as has been mentioned, unfortunately, I knew the history. I knew there was a genocide. There was a huge Armenian, or still is a huge Armenian population in the area. So I knew something of the culture. So I started thinking about, like, where can I plug in? How can I get to know more about Armenia? And I realized, okay, CISCA, great. I'll go to CISCA events. And it was probably the absolute best choice I could have made. I went to so many events. I got to know so many people. I remember one event I went to, there was a gentleman from the Armenian government who had gone through one of the programs at the Harvard the School for Government. And so I got to, see a presentation about, corruption in the USSR and in Armenia specifically, and how things work there. It was really cool and relevant, to head into the Peace Corps, already understanding, what was going on the ground. I remember various presentations. So I remember, there would be panels of people from, one month was a business group, and 1 month, I think there was a group of restaurant owners. They just had like the coolest kinds of groups of people show up. So it was quite an education, pre-Peace Corps. During the Peace Corps, I was lucky enough to get some funding from CISCA for some special projects. Like in my town, I worked with a grade school teacher who helped me run, an after-school club. This is a little bit outside of Yerevan. This was in Martuni, but CISCA found a way to make it work for me, which I will always be grateful for. It was a social club where kids got to ask questions. Like we had a suggestion box in the classroom where young people, teenagers, could sort of drop off questions about things they wanted to discuss in the group. And some questions couldn't be answered because they were actually like a little too racy, like a little outside our purview. But we got to discuss relationships and relating to your family and relating to each other, and it was a really lovely experience. And then after Peace Corps, when I came home, I still was living in Cambridge, so I stayed involved in CISCA, and I served on the board for a few years. And again, the exchanges, the panels, the visitors were really lovely. Like I remember there was one group that came that had to do with like infrastructure and how do people actually move business products in Armenia and out of Armenia, and how do you get things exported and imported from Armenia, to get to know people in person and hear their experiences was really enlightening. I have to mention some of the people I remember who were really lovely. I remember Jack Mitsorian, who is always so involved and really passionate about the cause. Jidai Babikyan, who I think was the head of Nasser for a long time, he was on the board. Very sweet man, very, very involved. And I can't not mention Susie Pierce. Susie Pierce was dynamite, so dedicated to the cause, you know, to CISCA and to the development, protection, preservation of a world culture around nuclear disarmament. She was very inspirational to me, and I'm really glad I was able to know her. And that's really it for me. I just wanted to give you sort of a personal view of, like, you know, what it was like as a young person to be involved and get to know the folks and have these experiences. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my husband and I are co-owners of Art Specialties in Belmont. We have the largest Armenian wine collection in New England, so come see us, Trapello Road. And just thank you so much for having me and for inviting me to be here. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, both for your story and for the work that you continue to do, including that wine collection. So now you know where to go. So before I introduce our next piece, which is going to be pulled up on the screen, I do just want to mention that the work of CISCA over the years has included many of the things you just heard about. Delegations coming to Cambridge, delegations to Armenia and to Yerevan, groups of social workers, educators coming to learn from their colleagues here to bring back part of the effort to build democracy in Armenia. So that work has continued. And just know that those snapshots from the past are not only the past, but again, I don't want to take a lot of time. I just wanted to note that the work has been so rich over these decades, and it's really been an incredible testament to the founders and the people who are still involved. But with that, I think we are probably ready for remarks from Esther Demircan, who was a member of the first student exchange group from Yerevan that came to Cambridge and is currently the executive director of the City of Smile charitable organization in Yerevan. So she was not able to be here, but did send remarks to share with us. So I'm going to assume that's just going to happen magically behind me. I'm going to move away.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Demircan, and I'm sending you my greetings from Armenia. I am the Executive Director of City of Smile Foundation, which supports children with cancer by funding their treatment in Armenia. First of all, I want to say that I'm which supports children with cancer by funding their treatment in Armenia. First of all, I want to say that I'm really excited to know that you have all gathered today to celebrate the 30th anniversary of CISCA. And I must say I am a proud alumni of CISCA program. And I am even more proud to say that I'm actually the participant of the first program that came to Boston, and I think it was in 1994. What CISCA program has given to us is beyond anything possible that could have happened at the time for little kids of Armenia or young kids of Armenia. The hospitality that we have experienced, the warmth of people that we have experienced when came to Boston was really incredible, let alone the content of the program, which is also very interesting and very informative for us at the time. I think throughout the program, lifetime friendships were formed both with hosting families and the members of the program. And those friendships mean a lot to us because, as we all know, anything that comes from your childhood is very, very important and heartwarming for you. I also really want to express my highest appreciation and gratefulness to Jack and Eva Medzorians and actually the whole team of CISCA. At that time, we only knew Jack and Eva Medzorians, but I'm sure it was a very big team working on this program and making this program happen. And looking back, I am really confident to say that it was an extremely successful program. You guys did an amazing job, and it is really worth celebrating the 30th anniversary because many children and lives of many people, children, young adults, and young professionals were really affected by this program and affected in a good way because I'm sure it gave them a lot of things to remember, a lot of things to cherish, and a lot of things to, to be grateful for. Once again, I thank you all very much for gathering today. I'm sending you my warmest greetings. I wish I was there with you guys today, but it doesn't matter where we are. I think CISCA will always be in our hearts. Thank you.
So next, we're going to have a musical performance, and I'm going to not say the name of the person first because I want you to take this in. So our next performer was born in Yerevan. She has won several prizes in violin competitions across Europe and across the United States. She's currently a second-year student at Frankfurt University of Music and Performing Arts in violin, and she is studying with Professor Eric Schumann. She will be performing a piece by Paganini, Caprice number 24. And any of you who are familiar with Paganini know that these are technically difficult pieces. He was sort of the rock star of his time. So in the true spirit of the collaboration between Cambridge and Yerevan, please welcome Emilia Gasparian on the violin. Emilia Gasparian. Well, I dare say that in the 130 years we've been using this chamber, there's probably never been a more beautiful musical performance than that we just heard. So thank you so much. The next part of our program is to very simply acknowledge some of those people who have been part of this effort and have either at the very beginning, today, and in some cases throughout the 35 plus years of this enterprise, have helped to make this what it is, this connection, this sister city relationship, this twinning, this effort for peace based on human interconnection. And so I'm going to simply ask the president of CISCA, Roxanne Etmekjian, to come up and help with this. I know it's a little kind of gendered, but we're going to go with it anyway. And I'm just going to ask, as I call your name, if you would come forward and you receive your certificate. We are taking photographs, so if you can just pause and get the photograph with Roxanne, our photographer is ready. So you'll just have to be ready when I call you. So first is Ellen Mass. Ellen, please come up. And I won't read these all, but I will just say that Ellen definitely is a founder of the association and has been instrumental in helping keeping the memory. Oh, Ellen is. I'm sorry, I need to give better directions. I know our people. How shall we do this? Yeah, I think if you can just get the. And then I'll ask Ellen if you can just stay up here. We're just going to keep people up so we can get a nice group photograph at the end. So, all right. So next, I'd like to bring up Ivan Bath. So we've heard from both Ivan and Ellen, and we've heard of our next recipient, Valley Buland, who a longtime colleague of mine at the city, a true supporter of peace and justice, and I'm very honored to be able to give this to Roxanne, to give to you. Next, I would like to bring up Philip Ketchum. So. Next, on behalf of both herself and her late, great, amazing husband, I'd like to bring up Eva Medzorian on behalf of both Eva and Jack. Okay. Next, I'd like to bring up Cheryl Shushan, past president of CISCA. And next, I'd like to bring up Elisa Stepanyan, who was past president just before Cheryl and led the association for many years. Okay. Next, I'd like to bring up Nancy Kalajan. Nancy. The next person we'd like to honor, you've heard mentioned already, Suzanne Pierce. Suzanne's daughter, Miranda, is here to receive this on Susie's behalf. And I will just say, I'm going to take the liberty to say that Susie was a friend for the peace movement that I worked in from the 1980s. And so it's a real honor to be able to give this to you, Miranda, on behalf of your mom. And our last certificate of recognition is for the late school superintendent, Mary Lou McGrath. She has family who were unable to attend this event, but we still wanted to take a moment to recognize her role in making this possible and her work in our community as well as a leader. So on behalf of Mary Lou McGrath and her work, we'd like to take a moment to honor her as well. So thank you. So if we can get a group picture with all of the people we've recognized. Okay, so, all right, so we are coming to the close of our program, but before we have closing remarks from the current president of CISCA, I'd like to ask Eva Medzorian to just share a couple of brief thank yous, because we know we're running late.
How can I thank you from the bottom of my heart? Just an amazing, wonderful gift that you have given to me and to everybody and to my husband who isn't here. But I really kind of think he's with us. I really do believe in he's here. Jack is here. You know, you have done something that I never believed I was going to live to see. You have brought us all together and to work together, to do things together. And we don't do enough of those things. I just love you all. You are all very special. Each one of you, I know you all, and you have, each one of you have something extra special that will always stay with me and with you, and it will be a memory that will be here in this room, but not only in this room, but I will take it to Armenia with me when I go in a couple of months. And this is such, and when I tell them what you've done, This is giving them hope. Things are so tragic right now. Life is so difficult for most of them people there. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if I didn't see this with my own eyes and hear it, I wouldn't have believed it, that you have performed a miracle. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Snorhakalat yun. So the last person I want to bring up is the current president of CISCA, Roxanne Etmekcan. And I will say I got notes to say about people, but I got no notes about Roxanne. So I will just say from my personal experience, she has been so devoted to making this event happen, to make it happen in the right way, and to honor the past, but also to help us look forward to the future and what we can do together. So I'm very glad to bring up our last speaker to close us out before I welcome you to the reception. Please, Roxanne.
So good evening, Mayor Siddiqui, City Councilor Patty Nolan, Master of Ceremonies Brian Kaur, and all of our guests. It's a great pleasure to see you all here to celebrate the 35th anniversary of CISCA in our first in-person gathering in more than 2 years. This organization has such a rich history, and I hope those of you who are new to CISCA have gotten a sense of the breadth and impact of our organization through our speakers tonight. You'll learn more from the exhibit we've put together that's outside the Sullivan Chamber. While I'm not new to either Cambridge or Yerevan, I did study for a year in the late 70s at Yerevan State University while Armenia was still part of the Soviet Union. But I am a relative newcomer to CISCA. My first direct contact with the org was in 2017 when my husband and I, empty nesters, volunteered to be a host family for a young delegate from Armenia. It was such a rewarding experience that I made a commitment to CISCA then and was elected to the board of directors the next year. While the last couple of years have been hard, we've continued with virtual meetings and events with past delegates, most of which are available on CISCA's YouTube channel. We now look ahead to the future, to reconnecting the cities of Cambridge and Yerevan and restarting exchange programs. I'm headed to Yerevan in October and am working to schedule a meeting at City Hall to strengthen our ties there. To those of you who are new to CISCA, please join us and become a member of our all-volunteer organization. Please pick up a brochure and get involved in the next chapter of CISCA. Now, on behalf of the CISCA board, I'd like to thank Mayor Siddiqui and the Cambridge Peace Commission for partnering with CISCA in this event and for offering much support. And thank you to the mayor of Yerevan, Hracha Sarkisyan, for his kind words and support. And to David Gevorkian, head of the Yerevan Foreign Affairs Department, for his encouragement. Also, thank you to Mayor Siddiqui's staff, the City Hall IT team, and David Medzorian of Daval Video. For preparation of the exhibit, a thank you to the Cambridge DPW, the Yerevan History Museum, especially Deputy Director Lucine Amirjanyan, to the National Association for Armenian Studies and Research for offering us space to work on the exhibit and for their very helpful staff, and to Ellen Mass and Valley Buland for providing us with valuable content. In addition, a big thank you to Isabel Hamill as chair of our 35th anniversary committee, to our speakers and musicians, and to all of you in the audience. And lastly, a special thank you to those who had the vision and drive to forge the relationship between Cambridge and Yerevan so many years ago. And now, I guess I will turn things over to Brian. Thank you.
Well, Thank you, Roxanne. Any of you who know me know I can speak at great length, so I will not do that. I will simply say it has been such an honor and pleasure to be part of CISCA over my years with the Peace Commission since 2008. I still hope to go to Yerevan one day. I've not been, but I know I will get there. And I look forward to continuing to work with CISCA and all of you on this effort for peace building, for community building, and just helping to make the world a more humane place, one person at a time. So with that, we are having a reception out in the foyer, the hall, the lobby, and I do want to ask if the people who performed who are still here and our elected officials and those we honored could just stay for a couple of other photographs, but everyone else head out into the hall, check out the photographs, have some food, and again, thank you so much for being here and celebrating with us. And I'm sorry, apparently the food is in the mayor's parlor, which is behind that wall. Now, nope, ignore me. I was right the first time.